Hi, hello, welcome if you're new here or welcome back. Either way, hi. This is a Leon Kuwata X fragile female listener. I do not own this fanfiction, nor do I own the beautiful fan art used in this video. Hopefully you enjoy it. The key. YN, your name. LN, last name. EC, eye color. HL, hair length. HC, hair color. Ultimate talent, not mentioned. AU, non-despair AU. Warnings, none really. It's primarily fluffy, but if you're sensitive to topics such as being cheated on or being heartbroken, then you might not want to listen to this one shot or fanfiction. Third person point of view. When Ellen had been dating Byakuya Togami for ages now, and her best friend, Leon Kuwata, could only watch from the sidelines, he loved Wen. She was his entire world, and she owned his heart. He stopped being a playboy only shortly after developing these feelings for her. He wanted to be better than that. He knew that Wen didn't like it when he was a playboy. Thinking about it now, Leon hadn't liked it too much either. He was so addicted to the high of being a playboy that he hadn't even realized the actual reality of it. He was glad he never got any girl pregnant, but even though Wang wouldn't be his first if he did it with her someday, she would most certainly be his only for that point of view. He cut off all the ties with the girls he used to talk to and became a better man, all for Wang. When Ryan told Leon she had been dating Byakuya Togami, his heart had been completely shattered. The feeling inside him, though, didn't go away, no matter how much Leon wanted them to. He didn't fall down the rabbit hole either. Of course, it hurt that the love of his life was with another man, but he refused to let himself falter because of that. He had eventually gotten used to the two of them dating, and while he didn't like it, nor did he approve of it, he wanted Wine to be happy, no matter what, even if he wasn't the one for her, or the one to make her happy. He clenched his fist as he walked down the hallway. It could have been anyone else. It could have been one of Leon's guy friends, Mondo, Chihiro, or even Kiyotaka. But no, it had to be Byakuya. Leon hated Byakuya with a burning passion. Even before Wine and him started going out, he was completely furious about this, incredibly angry. Wine was a naive and kind girl. Byakuya could have manipulated her for anything. Leon refused to believe that Byakuya actually loved Wine and cared about her safety and her happiness. When Leon saw them together, Byakuya didn't even give Wine so much as a gaze to say, "I love you," back when she said it. It made him incredibly angry. One day, Leon found himself walking down the hallway. It was time to go home, but practice for the baseball team had gone later than expected. Convenient for Leon and Wyan, because they always walked home together. She stayed late to help teachers out. Even when she was dating Byakuya, she never stopped spending the same amount of time with Leon, and she never treated him differently. Leon was thankful for that. "What class was she in again?" he mumbled aloud as he walked past each classroom door. Peeking his head inside when he didn't see Wan, he continued on. Eventually, he reached the last classroom, but he heard tears and shouting could be heard. His blue eyes widened and ran to the door, seeing Byakuya, Wan, and Celestia Lundenberg. Celestia and Byakuya had their arms wrapped around one another like a couple. "Ryan, I think you're missing the point," Byakuya said, his tone incredibly cold. "The Togami leader has to have several wives so that his offspring can fight for the head of the company. You're but one girl that I would marry." He averted his eyes. "Not that I love you, to be frank with you. I would have really liked any of my children to be commoners such as yourself. The only reason I dated you was because I wanted to see where this would go, to see if you're wife material, and to see if you were willing to have offspring with me after marriage. Clearly, though, you're not made for this life, and clearly you're not made for me." His words were cold, and tears escaped Wine's eyes. She looked absolutely heartbroken. Leon stood there, the blood and anger inside his boiling. He clenched his fist and gritted his teeth. Celestia blinked and her eyes widened when she saw Leon. This caused Byakuya and Wyan to also turn their attention to Leon. Wan's eyes widened. Leon, she could barely say anything. With his head down, Leon walked towards them, his fists clenched so tightly that his knuckles started to turn white. He moved in between Byakuya and Wyan. "Togami, you're a real shithead," Leon said, his tone gone cold and venomous. Lifting his head to look Byakuya dead in the eyes, a dangerous and angry aura surrounding Leon. His expression darkened and cold. "Wen loves you more than anything else in the world, and you broke her heart for some shitty family tradition. Worse of, you didn't even love her at the beginning with." Leon, Wen said, his name affectionately and quietly, looking up at the tall male. He was always there for her when she needed him. He always cared for her rescue when she needed him. He was always the first one to ask her if she was alright and with the first to make her feel better. Here he was, standing before her, once again protecting her. "You're the male whore," Leon snapped again. "I wanted to punch you and hurt you so badly. But you know what? I'm not going to. Do you know why? Because I'm on a better path because of Wyan. She's changed me for the better, and she's been my everything since the day I realized I had romantic feelings for her. So you know what? I'll make her forget all about your shithead self. Got that? I'll give her the loving she deserves." Leon turned to Wyan and gently grabbed her wrist. He ran out the classroom with her wrist in his hand. Wyan didn't deny any of it, intense blush on her cheeks. What had she been missing all this time? She had been missing out on a man who had always been the best for her. Leon had always been her best friend, her savior, her hero, and little did she know that she also had feelings for Leon too. She never realized it, not until now, because she was so caught up on her little crush on Byakuya. There was a huge dramatic difference between being in love with someone and having a crush on someone, and she didn't know that difference until now. Once they were outside the school building, Leon stopped running and gently let go of Wyan's wrist. He hadn't even broken a sweat compared to Wyan, who was gasping for air. Leon blinked and laughed nervously. He rubbed the back of his head. "Sorry, Wyan, I forgot you had bad stamina." He let Wyan catch her breath before he continued speaking. "Are you okay? It's a silly question to ask, really, seeing as Leon was surprised by Wyan throwing her arms around him. She buried her head into his chest, holding him tightly. Leon blushed and gently wrapped his arms around her. Wyan, the hair length and hair color haired, snuggled her head against Leon's chest gently. "Leon, thank you for everything you've done for me. You're so incredibly kind," she said softly. My heart hurts so bad because of stupid Togami. I feel betrayed by him." She looked up into Leon's blue hues. "Leon, did you mean everything you said about your feelings for me and treating me better?" "Hell yeah," Leon said. "One thing I never was a liar." Wyan blushed and giggled, slightly trying to wipe away all her tears. "Wyan, I know it's forward and stuff, especially after you're breaking up with Togami, but let me mend your heart. Let me give you proper loving and proper care. Let me make you happy, happier than the schoolgirl ever could. Let me show you what real love is. I promise I'll never leave you. I promise I'll never fall for another person. I promise I'll always be there for you." Honestly and genuinely, feelings and words left Leon's lips as he looked onto Wyan's eyes. He was being completely honest and serious with Wyan, especially with his feelings. He'd also understood if she rejected him. She just went through a heartbreak, and maybe she didn't feel the same in his eyes, but he hoped she said yes. He wanted to help her and see her smile more than anything else in the entire world. Wyan nodded her head, and almost without any hesitation, even. I trust you, Leon, she said softly, her heart racing. And I think I'm in love with you too. I never knew that the difference between a crush and being in love with someone, and I was too blinded by the crush on Togami to even realize that I had romantic feelings for you. But standing here with you, hearing your voice, seeing your face, feeling your kindness and care, and honestly, I think you're the one I've been in love with all this time. The one I need. She was blushing furiously as she looked down. She knew she wouldn't be rejected since Leon confessed first, but Leon only lifted her chin up and kissed her forehead gently after moving some hair away. All right, he said, even though it's late, how about a treat you for some dinner? I'm sure you're starved because I know I'm definitely starving. Wyan blinked and giggled, wiping the remains of her tears as she nodded her head. Mm-hmm, she said. Leon grinned and gently took her hand. You gotta close your eyes, though, because I'm gonna surprise you, he said. The female giggled softly and closed her eyes. Despite the heartbreak she had experienced moments ago, one could already feel the healing process begin. She didn't feel depressed or even incredibly upset about the breakup. She trusted Leon, trusted him so much that she could walk around with her eyes closed and have him guide the way. Eventually, Leon stopped walking. You can open your eyes now. One's eyes widened as she opened them, seeing they were in front of the FCR, her favorite cafe or restaurant. Leon, she said, almost excited. The tall male grinned and gently took her hand. They walked inside and ordered their food. Then Leon sat down at the table next to Wyan. I never understood why people on dates always sit across from each other. Sure, professional dates do that, but if you're going to a cafe, why not sit next to each other? He said and chuckled. I mean, we're not on a date, but still. Wyan blushed and looked up at Leon. Her eyes softened. Thank you so much, Leon, she said again, for everything and for bringing me here. Leon blinked and turned to her, her smile genuinely and warm smile. Wyan, I love seeing you happy more than anything in this world. I just want you to be happy, he said. Wyan's heart raced. She didn't understand why, but she had the urge to just hug him and wrap her arms around him. The sense of happiness Leon brought to her was something she couldn't imagine anyone else give her. It had always been like that. Leon always made Wyan happy, even when no one else could. He had a charismatic smile that made the world around him a much brighter place. Truthfully, even in the playboy years, he was still kind and generous. This is what she had been missing out on, all those times that chaos to be with Byakuya over Leon. She felt like a jerk, but she knew Leon was okay with it, that he understood why she had done it. She didn't treat Leon any differently than before, even when she was with Byakuya. The only difference was that he was thrown into the mix, that he had been the reason why and sometimes hadn't gone and went places with Leon. She felt horrible regardless, and somehow she knew Leon wasn't upset with her about it. Her eyes softened as she looked at Leon just as their food came. Thanks! Leon handed Wyan her plate of food and smiled warmly at her. All right, let's eat up before it gets too late. I wanted to make sure I get you home safely before it gets dark. With that, Leon began chewing down on his food, rushing a little so that he would finish quickly. Wyan blushed and then giggled, deciding to eat at the same speed Leon was eating. She was surprised that he worried so much about her, but at this point, she knew that she shouldn't have been. Leon was the kindest, most generous, and thoughtful man that had to exist. The hair-color-haired female gently touched her heart and felt a weird feeling inside, something different compared to being around a crush. She genuinely felt relaxed and at ease with Leon, as well as being able to be herself. She knew she wasn't very strong or capable like most people, but her best friend didn't seem to care. Once they finished eating, Leon started walking Wine home. So, are you going to delete the piece of trash phone number or contact from your phone? The female blinked and looked down. I wanted to, she said, but I'm not good at deleting contacts because then I feel bad and stuff. Leon chuckled. All right, let me see your phone then, he said gently. Wine handed Leon her phone. The red-haired male went through her contacts and deleted Byakuya's phone number. He then removed Byakuya from any social media the two shared, and he changed Wine's passwords so that Byakuya couldn't enter any of her accounts. He then handed her phone back to her. Your phone is now Togami free. Wayne blushed and looked down at her phone. Her eyes softened. Thank you again, Leon, she said and chuckled a little. I can't keep staying in your debt like this. You've helped me so much. At this point, I'm kind of surprised you're still so selfishly helping me out. I haven't done much for you. Leon stopped and turned to Wyan. You don't have to do anything in return, Wyan. I'm just happy I can make you happy, he said and ruffled her hair softly. He then left his hand at the top of her head. Her hair lanced in his fingertips softly. Faint blush appeared on Leon's cheeks as he smiled. Your hair is so soft. Just like the rest of ya, he chuckled. Come on, let's get you home before your folks worry about you. He started walking again, and the female couldn't help but just follow Leon. Her heart was racing. She wanted to return the favor so badly to Leon. He deserved the world for how kind he was to her. He deserved everything beautiful and perfect, and yet here he was with Wyan. The girl's eyes softened more as he looked at the back of his head. His hands were in his pants pockets as he whistled a little. The tune was gentle and relaxing. For the ultimate baseball player, Leon Kuwata was so much more than just a handsome face with outstanding baseball skills. Once they reached Wyan's house, Leon smiled and walked to her door. You're home, Wyan. Try to get some rest, okay? Text me if you need anything. He gave one last smile before he turned to leave, but Wyan grabbed his wrist. She blushed. Leon, she said. The male turned to her, and just as she did, Wyan placed a soft and gentle kiss upon his lips. The red-haired male was stunned as his eyes softened. Both closed their eyes as the kiss lingered for a few seconds more, but they slowly parted their lips, centimeters apart. Leon, I love you, she emphasizes. The fact that it was Leon she loved, not Byakuya. Hey, Wyan, I love you too, the male responded. Seconds after she said those words, he placed a kiss on her forehead. Wyan, would you do the honors of being my girlfriend? Yes, Wyan said and kissed his cheek. She then opened her house door, but turned to Leon. Blush covered her cheeks. Text me when you get home, so I knew you got home safely. Leon nodded and winked. I promise, he said. Good night, Wyan. Good night, Leon, responded Wyan. Hesitantly, the two bid one another goodbyes and they parted ways. Wyan went up to her room and went through her camera roll, deleting pictures of Byakuya and her. She noticed that even she didn't look happy in those photos. She tore the photos of Byakuya and her off the wall and trashed it all. There wasn't a doubt in her heart or her mind about Leon's feelings for her and the relationship the two were already starting to have with one another. Seemed it was going to the right track when touched her heart, and she smiled warmly. For the first time since dating Byakuya, Wen felt genuinely happy, and it was all because of Leon Kuwata. Hi, hello again. Hopefully you enjoyed it. I am so sorry for all the mispronouncements and stuttering. But yeah, I do not have much to say, only that this was really long. But hopefully you enjoyed it, as I said for the third time. But anyways, I do not own this fanfiction, like I said at the beginning of this video, nor do I own the beautiful fan art used in this video. Yeah, goodbye.